We are going live.
I believe we are. Oh, there we go. Got it. I do.
Yeah.
Should be fun.
Yes, we are live now. We are live. We are live now. Yes. Welcome, everyone. This is once again your host, Shailesh, bringing you from New Zealand World News. Positive, connecting people, and real connections is one of our themes that we have been doing for a while now. And we bring some amazing speakers and amazing humans. Rather than speakers first, I would say amazing humans. So today we have got an very interesting, very beautiful Hailey, who is exactly a Kiwi. And I didn't realize she was Kiwi, but she is Kiwi, I can guarantee. And she is from Wellington. So today we are going to have a discussion with her in this episode of Real Connections, what Haley is all about and how we can uncover the challenges that she has gone through and how the positives, as we say, our New Zealand World News is all about positives. So what are the positives that she has learned or she has been learning, and we all humans keep doing learning from all our mistakes and all our challenges, we call it. I don't call it mistakes. I always say it's pleasant or unpleasant experiences that we all humans have from time to time. And what age we are in doesn't matter. We still have those experiences of pleasant and unpleasant. So today we are going to invite, and we have invited the beautiful Hailey, who is from Wellington, a hardcore Kiwi, and I'm going to discuss with her her life journey, that what she has, how she has manifested, and from a little of her own, whatever memory she has got, she's going to share her experiences, but also a real connection and with her. And so real connections is what something that I would wanting to connect with people, connect with all humans. So today I have got the pleasure to connect with Hailey. Welcome, Hailey, to this show of us and another episode of us, that we always connect with people. We always connect and reconnect so that we understand, I understand from how every human, we talk about lots of other things, but we don't talk much about humans. So this is our attempt to talk to humans, with real humans, real talk. Welcome, Hailey, once again for this episode of Real Connections. Tell me something about you, Hailey, rather than me introducing you. You are a creative person, so let's talk about it.
Okay, well, I like to consider myself a buffet of sweet, sour, and slightly strange.
Mm-hmm.
My passions are primarily art, writing. I do a lot of fashion design, dog training, house investing. I bought my first house at 21. I think the most important thing to me has been just to experience a buffet. I associate everything with food. I also love
Wow.
food.
I love food too.
I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't, right? Who
I
doesn't?
know. I know.
I do. I also do a lot of dog training. I studied dog psychology, which is honestly quite similar to human psychology.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of dog walking as well at one point, walking up to sometimes up to 25 dogs off leash. It was fantastic. It really helped me understand the dynamic and how working with the one dog can mean that you're really working with team dogs, because that dog influences all the other dogs in a various different dynamic. And it's the same with humans as well, how, you know, working with one person, helping one person can
Mm-hmm.
set off effects, you know, all throughout the world where they can help others and so forth. So I bring a lot of that experience into how I work with people today, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's really beautiful.
Right.
I have so many plans for this year. Where do I even start?
Right. So let's start from your beginning of your childhood, of your the way you were brought up, and what are those hurdles that you had in your journey, that you were became a self-aware, or you became self-dependent rather than or making it more independent? Because I know you are quite independent, and you like to be quite independent, and you like multiple things, and that's actually one of the key. I
To
thought
be.
it's a very positive thing that you like so many things, so then you can become independent in many ways. So
Yeah.
tell me something about it. What really went through your mind? Was it you were always like that as a child, that you were like many things, or you always developed those things in
I've,
your
I've
as
always loved a lot of things, and it's actually been a challenge loving as much as I do, because
Hmm,
I never get bored, which is fantastic. But I always felt like when I was going to grow up, I had to choose one. I
hmm,
couldn't do all of it. And I spent a lot of my time really struggling, trying to figure out what I loved more than the other and what I had the capacity to do, because
hmm,
I was trying to figure out what I needed to choose, whether it was art,
hmm,
which I loved so much, but my inner critic just wouldn't let me do it the way that I loved. I judged myself too much. I didn't just relax and put in the time to be better. I would start, it wasn't good enough for me, I would never finish it. So then that inner critic just hit me too hard, and my OCD didn't really help with that too much, because you latch onto the thought and it cycles over and over and over and just brings you down. So I had to stop art entirely at the age of 7. I was ripping up
hmm,
everything that I did that people complimented, because it still wasn't good enough for me. And that's when I really started to focus on my second love, which was clothing and fashion design. And that was one where it didn't feel like it didn't have to be part of my soul. It was a very practical kind of process. Even though it's
hmm,
very creative, it's a step away from my heart than art. It's slightly less creative than art. With art, you're building something out of nothing.
hmm,
You're building a world out of a piece of paper. You're creating 3D out of nothing. Whereas with
hmm,
fashion, you
yeah,
have fabric, you have something tangible. It was easier. I felt less vulnerable with
hmm,
fashion. So I really, really started focusing on that. I was creating outfits with my Barbies. I was 8 years old when I made my first corset. I didn't even know what a corset was. But
hmm,
this was it was a little boob tube, and it had crisscrossing there, and
hmm,
it made me feel beautiful and sensual and powerful, which may sound strange coming from an 8-year-old, but every
hmm.
little girl wants to feel feminine and lovely. I even
Okay.
have a little photo album of all the photos that my mom used to take of
Wow.
the Barbies and the fashion designs that I would
Oh,
make
wow.
with my
Okay.
Barbies. All very similar clothes to what I do now. I oh, I loved it. I did it every day. I
Wow.
was making clothes for myself at such a young age as well. I
Hmm,
made my first pair of pants at 8.
hmm,
And from that age, I always knew that I wanted to work for myself.
hmm,
I always do best when the power is fully mine, because I can just work, work, work. If I'm not relying on other people, then I feel like I have so much power to just excel.
hmm,
And it's all it's all my responsibility. It's all up to me. I can't blame anybody else. I can
hmm.
only blame myself if I fail. So
Yeah.
it gives me an immense sense of just power and relief, knowing that I can
Hmm,
be in full control that way. So I decided to never work for other people, only to
hmm.
work with
Yeah.
people. And that by the age of 25, I was going to be an entrepreneur with a thriving fashion
Hmm.
business and
Wow.
who knows what else. So
Hmm,
I spent most of my childhood and much of my teenage years working towards that.
hmm,
I would be working really, really long hours in my family business, and I would finish at probably about sometimes 12 to 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I would go straight into another room and start sewing. And
hmm,
I'd be sewing until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I would just be doing that constantly. Whatever time and space that I had, didn't matter if I was missing out on sleep, I was focused on my dreams and ambitions, and that's what I wanted to do.
So were you like, what I could see and what I could hear is like you always like to challenge yourself rather than
Oh,
the
I love it.
and
How else are we gonna go, right?
yeah, but
What is life
also
without a challenge?
yeah, but it's like how independent mind that you had. Like, when did you realize that? Okay, you said you had OCD. When did you realize, or who did someone told you that it is OCD, or you realized that it is, or what was it really, and how independent? Because that's a challenge. Like when somebody tells you you have got this, you got that, and then you become aware of that, and then you think that I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I am only capable of doing this and doing that. All those questions keep coming when somebody points out something, right? But you being challenging yourself, you being independent mind thinker at a very young age, since 8, you were saying you do everything that you wanted and you're ambitious.
Even younger, I was climbing fences at 1. My mum used to boast about that.
Right.
Boast about all the little things I was doing, this independent little child.
Wow. Wow. So these
Still a
challenges,
child.
right. So these challenges that you were facing are the one that you realized that, okay, you challenge yourself, which is a great thing. I think to our listeners, what one of the things that I could see and sense from here that doing multiple things is one way, but to think to do multiple things. How did you actually trigger that of thought, thinking of doing multiple things or developing interest in multiple things? Was it like your inborn talent, or was it like you saw something around you? That's why you thought that I could do this? What was it?
It's a bit of a mixture, actually. Just like how I'm usually thinking about 3 things, I have about 3 really strong reasons as to why I have naturally done that and why I
Mm,
consciously started doing that as of a
sure.
few years ago. So naturally, I have very high energy
Sure.
and I have many passions.
Mm,
And the inner critic that I have, which is heightened by the OCD, is it's not happy with me if I'm not progressing many things at once. But in order to really get good at something, you have to put in a lot of time and focus.
mm.
So what was important to me was maximizing that time as much as possible, just to silence the inner critic.
Oh, yeah, the inner
It
critic.
became a need just so I wouldn't fall into depression, even because I struggled with that from a really young age.
Mhm.
And a big reason why I struggle with depression from a young age was because when I was about 7, I started getting some health issues, which were quite challenging. I won't go into a huge
No, no.
amount of detail because it takes valuable time and I could be speaking about something more positive, but
Yeah.
it ended up being when I was about 10, 12, I ended up not being able to walk at one point, and my family and I were under the impression that I might not even live until the age of 30.
Wow.
So my mortality has always been at the forefront of my mind,
Mm,
and it's given me an immense value for time and living in the moment and making the most of every moment that I have. So that has heightened even more so the importance of just finding the ability within myself to just focus on what I love and to do everything that I love, not to just single out one thing and focus on that, just to do all of it and enjoy all of it. And lastly, the one where I really, really started trying to hone in on this was when I was about 25. I had been diagnosed with OCD a couple of years before that. I spent about a year in denial. I figured I might have been
sure.
misdiagnosed because
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of your typical OCD traits. Like my house is very OCD for sure, but people say OCD for being pedantic, but that's actually not what OCD is whatsoever. But my house is OCD.
Mm,
But my OCD really was intrusive thoughts, So most of us, we have thoughts and it just passes, it goes. We might have a bad thought and we don't think too hard on it. Whereas OCD, I would latch on to that. I would be thinking, why am I having this thought? Who am I? What does this make me? Or a big one that has prevailed through my entire life was me not being good enough, not having enough value to share. And that has made my inner critic really, really strong. So when it comes to focusing on anything that I really love, it's really easy for the OCD to just creep up and start giving me these thoughts. So what I found was if I distracted myself and focused on 3 different things and made it harder for these intrusive OCD thoughts to actually start to come up. And when they did, as soon as I noticed them start to come up, I would drop what I was doing and go to something else. So I was maintaining a sense of positivity with everything I was doing. Otherwise, if the OCD thought comes up and you start critiquing yourself while you're doing it, it's building an element of pain and negativity. And it made it hard for me to continue, because then I would associate that pain with something that I loved. So having 3 to 5 different hobbies that I could switch to as soon as the thoughts arose, and made it way easier to do just a little bit of everything. And it gave my OCD thoughts time to just disappear and do their own thing, while I could blissfully build up my skills and slowly work on my self-confidence and just give myself a break.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But doing so many things and challenging yourself, doing many things, and also on top of it, realizing that it's OCD that is also creeping in and can do lots of different things, different directions. How did you stay focused and positive to move forward? What really is happening in your mind and body that makes you still do all those things very positively and not get drifted or sidelined, into one direction? You're just maintaining and managing. How did you do that? How are you managing that? What's going on in your mind?
The truth is, sometimes I can't focus. Sometimes I do get sidelined. But every day is progress. Every day I tell myself, just put in the time, just put in the work. My thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, they're actually irrelevant. All they are is energy.
Energy, yeah.
Just churning around in my head.
Now you're talking.
If I forget about that, if I don't pay attention to that, if I let the thoughts just go, then my OCD has nothing to grab onto. So what I started focusing on was just emptying my mind of those thoughts and just doing. And is what I do. Often the thoughts do become really painful. My inner critic is still incredibly strong. Like the value I have for myself is so much lower still than what other people have for me. And I really value people who do show trust in me, because I still don't have a lot of that faith in myself. But what I do have is determination to just push through no matter what. And over time, it becomes easier. It becomes like a habit. The thoughts do silence themselves. And the more faith I find people have in me, the more they come to me with their trust for me to create a commission for them, or just anything like that, is making me realize less and less that my thoughts and my feelings, they don't matter. It's wasted energy. It really is. I just keep striving to be better and better.
I want to ask one very different out of the box question. Like, since you are all, it becomes more like you are a fearless person, it seems like, but to come to that fearless situation is very important, which I want to ask you. Like, since you are doing so many things and having this concept of knowing yourself that you have OCD, was it something that fear is also plays an important role in your thoughts, that whether I do this, I do that, I won't be able to do this, I won't be, or you just say that, hey, I don't care whether fear, I am just going to do it, or I will just do it. What's going on there? Do you think fear plays an important role in your situation or in the challenges that you are having?
I mean, I think fear plays an important role in everything for everyone. I
Yes.
think in many ways, it's what drives us. It can be what drives us to be better. It can be what destroys us. For most of my life, it's been what has destroyed me. It controlled me in many
Mm,
ways.
mm,
Just fear when it came to self-belief in my own abilities.
mm.
For the most part, I've been fearless to the point where it probably wasn't smart. As a whole, I'm
Yeah.
genuinely fearless. But the
Right.
way that I see emotions as a whole now is that, again, all it is energy. The fear is just energy that isn't being used, is not being utilized.
Mm,
It's energy bouncing around in your brain, just
mm.
like fear, anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's something I just try not to pay attention to.
You just keep going. You just keep doing
Yeah,
uh, without any
I
condition.
let myself sit and feel the fear. I actually have to, because when I do get fear and anxiety, I can get physical shakes that can get quite severe, that sometimes it's happening all over my body and I can't draw or I can't do anything. Sometimes it would get in the way of working. When I was working in pharmacy, I couldn't write down the names of clients and so forth.
Right.
So I have to learn to sit with it, acknowledge it, speak to it. I used to speak to my emotions in words, but over time I've taught myself to speak to my emotions and other aspects of myself with colors and pictures, because I find colors and pictures I find very positive, whereas words still hold a lot of negative connotations. Or I found that talking to myself with positive affirmations just wasn't enough. It was almost like I didn't believe it. So instead I started trying to just use pictures. So that meant that talking to my fear, it wasn't something I was afraid of anymore. I started looking forward to it because I was seeing really cool pictures. And
Right.
even though my fear would come up to me in scary pictures, they were still wild and amazing,
Mm,
even if it was skulls trying to talk to me. Or when I was a child, I would really struggle to go to sleep. I would close my eyes and there would be pictures of scary skulls or my animals dying that I loved, or all sorts of crazy, trippy, strange images coming just to my head, just rushing at me. And I would open my eyes and I would just sometimes start screaming until my mom would come in the room just to pat my hair and help me go to sleep, because every time I closed my eyes, my fear would be coming to me in these pictures. But now, drawing the morbid creatures that I do, doing that has helped me it's given myself a fascination for these crazy, slightly scary creatures that come up with my fear. And so now I embrace it with a sense of curiosity. I explore these pictures, no matter how grotesque or gruesome. And I find that even though I'm not using words, it's helping me understand my fear. And I feel like with understanding, where is the fear? You understand that you lose the fear. It's
yeah.
you're speaking to it, you're communicating with it in a calm, cohesive way, like riding a riptide. Instead of fighting the current, you go with it and you feel it. You just feel the motion, you go with the current, and you eventually find yourself at one with the ocean, in peace, you're safe,
Yeah.
and you're free. And that's what I'm finding. So when I feel that fear, I actually get excited. I see it as an opportunity to sit down, close my eyes, allow my body to shake as much as it needs to. I let my body tell me whatever it wants to. And I just sit there like a curious child, just waiting for this strange, tripping movie to come and tell me its plot. And
So
let
you
me
are not, I can see that you're not one of those normal, even including myself, who would want to be in the system, who wants to be follow the system, meaning like, okay, whatever the system tells you, you do accordingly and that, but you were more like doing on your own everything, recognizing your own self, everything, and want to do
do it
everything on
myself.
your own. So that is definitely a different altogether kind of a dynamics of living your life or living the journey, that every single moment that you want to move one moment to another moment without experiencing the system that you are living in, and not want to know the system that you are living in, but you possibly looks like you have created your own system. That's what I feel. And I feel that you are more like a spiritually awakened, where you are more self-realized way of
Pretty
living.
awake after this coffee.
Is it more like a self-realized of a different kind of life journey that you have created for your own self?
I
Or
guess what I would ask is if you can elaborate on what you mean by system. Do you mean social norms, the way people tend to just behave as a whole, or
yes,
how we
yes,
expect to behave?
yes, yeah.
Often when I hear system, I think government
No,
or
no, no, not government.
like system.
No, 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 not government. Just the way we are living in a society, in a community with the certain norms and certain traditions and certain things. But you have always trying to prove you are different from that, because you are doing it on your own, everything, and creating your own, basically. That's something I could see a very positive aspects of a human, that you, even though you live in a system of community society, you still can create your own way of life without hurting, without doing anything towards the disturbing the environment or the humans around us.
I think the simple point when it comes to the system that most of us live through is
Mhm,
I saw it. I saw how unhappy people are living in the system. I've seen
mhm,
that from such a young age that
mm.
I didn't want it. To me, it was a definition of insanity. Everyone is trying to follow the same
Yeah,
thing. It's not working for anybody. So why would I try?
yeah.
I want to find my own way, and finding and learning for myself. It gives me a sense of accomplishment, happiness, and achievement that it's incomparable to anything anyone else can teach me, or following a particular path everybody else has taken. It doesn't give me joy, or it
Mm,
doesn't give me inspiration.
mm,
That's why I often don't learn very well when other people try to teach me.
mm.
I do better if I just learn it myself.
Learn
Do
self-taught.
it myself. I learn so much faster. Someone could try and teach me how to do something for hours and hours and hours, and I won't get it.
Well, that's a good
I
point.
try for 10 minutes. I'm good.
Yeah, that's a good point you raised, and it was very open and transparent that most of our listeners probably will relate to that. Okay, do I want to do this way on my own, or do I want to follow someone and do it, which is easier rather than following your own path? But that's where you make the huge mistake of not uncovering your own power, not uncovering your own talent. When you don't follow yourself, you follow others. And that's something that to live, there are two ways of living, what you are trying to tell easily is either you'll follow someone and still do things what you want to, but you may not get the results that you are expecting. But if you do it on your own, you may get the results what you are expecting. Does that, does that?
You may or you may not. You may
Yeah.
fail, but it doesn't matter because you're doing it on your own. You're figuring it out
Mhm.
for yourself.
Yeah. But I guess accepting there is a different way of living is more important than thinking that there is only one way of living. Does that make sense? Because there are so many ways
Completely.
of living. Yeah.
One way of living would be boring. It's like eating one meal your entire
Mm.
life. I mean, I could happily eat the same meal 3 times a day for 2 weeks, sure, but
Mm.
ultimately, I don't want to be eating that my entire life.
Mm. Yeah. So you don't want to be like put into like a machine or a pattern. Humans are not machine or humans are not pattern, right?
I mean, I get called a machine a few times, especially when I'm sick.
A different way of machine that you do every single thing, different things in one day, and you still
Yep.
don't get loose
Often
of.
working 14 to 18 hours a day of just absolute bliss, which I've
Okay,
learned, honed that skill from a very young age, thankfully.
okay.
Partially thanks to my amazing mom who helped me hone that.
Sure.
It's naturally within myself. I have so much energy, I have to do something with it.
So what really triggered you? Like, I know you came from, you had siblings, you had people around you, but you think that you were totally different from the other ones around you because you are not following the norms or the system that was around you, put around you. But at the same time, you were not hurting the system put around you.
I was very lucky in the way that, I mean, obviously there's positives and negatives to
Mm,
everything, every way that we're brought up and so forth. But I was very lucky in the way that my parents, they didn't want to follow what everybody else was doing in the first place. So I grew up with the idea in my head that whatever everybody else was doing wasn't necessarily the way to do it. So
mhm,
it's always been something I've thought about, had in my head my entire life, and that's fantastic. But I was still very different from the rest of my siblings.
mm,
I was I was a lot more headstrong. I had a really strong sense of justice,
mm,
and that would often mean I was in a lot of fights, or I was also struggling with a lot of depression, and I had some stuff happen to me that kids
mm,
shouldn't have happened, and I didn't
mm,
know how to deal with it, so I would lash out, and
mm,
it was like energy that I didn't know what to do with, so it would come out in, anger, or trying to control my situation, or my sense of justice, which was partially probably an excuse to let out the anger that I had within. So
mm,
if my brothers were fighting and I believe one was right and one was wrong, I
mm,
would definitely butt in with my opinion, because I
mm,
can be opinionated, as non-judgmental as I try and be. And then usually it would wind up me being the one fighting.
mm,
One of the brothers would disappear, and then my parents would come in and, Haley, she's at it again.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very different, and my parents did struggle to know how to deal with all of the emotions that was going on in my head.
Sure.
I didn't even know how to deal with it. They were used to kids that were quite a bit calmer, more quiet. So I
Mm.
was kind of like a Haley hurricane, in my opinion.
Highly, I reckon. I love that.
I do like my storms.
That's good. That's good. Good to know. Yeah, because everybody's life storms are different, but accepting the storms is much important than anything else. And I think people try to run away from the storms, or they try to push away the storms. They can't do it. Just accept it, the storms that comes in your way. And this is something that I think it's a connection. As you said, like you connect with animals, and I saw your beautiful dog loitering around you. But what I wanted to, so that's a connection that you have created of your own, and that's a connection that you have, and that we all have. But do we know how to accept it, or do we have you accepted it? That's a very important part to move into positive direction. So, do you think that your challenges that you had with everything and around you and whatever it was, like to keep that positive focus, to keep that positive mindset, did you had to do something like completely make outside the box and do something against your will or against the wishes of around you? Did you experience something of that sort when you were making those positive changes in your mindset?
Yeah,
Because you by default hurt lots of things and hurt lots of people around you, and yet.
yeah. Well, from a young age, I was, because of all the things that I had gone through and the way that I was responding
Mm,
was quite angsty. So I created a lot of negativity around me when I was a little child, and it
mm,
would affect my siblings and created a lot of distaste.
mm,
And it brought me to the point where I was quite suicidal as a kid. It was pretty severe. My parents didn't know what to do about it.
mm,
No kid should be experiencing that. No parent should deal with a kid like that.
mm,
It shouldn't exist, but unfortunately it does.
mm,
And I didn't have the desire to live for myself. It wasn't there. And I loved my family. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to risk the fact that one day I might go too far and I wouldn't be able to
mm,
go back, and they would have that loss or that grief that they couldn't help me and it was too late. So what I found was that the one thing I did love was the people around me, my family.
mm,
So I think I was roughly around 10 years old at this point, and that's also the time where I started realizing that I might not live past 30. So what
mhm,
I wanted to do, the only way out I found was to start living for other people
mhm,
and not myself.
mm,
And while I don't entirely recommend that now, at the time, that was my savior. That's what saved me. It saved me throughout most of my teenage years,
mm,
even through part of my young adulthood, but mostly the teenage years where I was going through the severe depression. But what that did mean was that the relationships that I chose
mm,
were ones of people that needed help, that I
mm,
thought I could help. And I love psychology. I do love to help people just in
mm.
general. And it was almost like a science experiment. And as I say now, you don't get into a relationship with your test subjects. And unfortunately, I did do that. And living for them instead of myself, I went for the ones that needed more help than anybody else. And it
Sure,
meant
but
that
this is.
I
Mm,
it meant that I got into a relationship that was really challenging, and I wasn't able to be myself within that relationship. I was living for them. They weren't able to handle the creative energy that I have, or the scale of extremes that I love to live on and that I thrive in. And so I was changing myself a lot to make them happy. And originally I had started the relationship in the hopes that I could influence them positively and help them. But in the end, I ended up changing for them. And
mm,
so when I was 25 and I had stopped a lot of the fashion design, I still wasn't able to do the things I really loved. That's
mm,
when it hit me, because my dream from such a young age was to have that thriving business by 25.
mm,
And that's when it all just started to hit and come together. Like,
mm,
what are you doing? You're still sad, you're depressed, you're exhausted in a negative environment.
mm,
You still don't feel the joy when it comes to living for yourself. You're still living for other people. And so 25 is when I had to change everything, go against the relationship that I was still in from 19. And I I had to let go of all of that. I had to just forget about the person that I loved and just focus on building myself up. And unfortunately, that meant that the relationship didn't last either, because they couldn't handle that. And I understand someone who wants to work 14 to 18 hours a day is kind of a little bit unavailable,
mm.
but it's threatening as well when when your partner has the ambition that I do, because I think they were afraid that I would surpass them or carry on and leave them in the dust. And unfortunately, that fear that they had meant that they weren't growing with me. And I kind of had to do that. So yeah, it was a really, really big battle to just continue pushing with what I loved when the person that I loved the most was against so much of what I was doing. It was a daily struggle that I just had to fight every day. Oh, I hope that answered your question. That was a very long-winded response.
Yeah, but I was
Good at those.
and one of the things I noticed in that question or in this conversation, that what you said, and I'm more interested in how you change yourself, because you had a mindset before of suicidal. You had a mindset before of what did you say? Not just suicidal, but that you said something very interestingly, and I was trying to stop there and ask you that question, but now it's came out of my
Just
mouth.
go like this. You want me to?
So what I wanted to know that, you had a set mind before of negativity, and then you changed that negativity into positivity. The mindset was changed by yourself. So you had this mindset of your own, thinking that you was not liking, or you don't want to hurt your own people, when you noticed that you were suicidal in your thoughts and that you could not cope. And then how you said that you decided that you figured it out that you won't be able to cross 30. You said that's what you said, that you won't be able to live for 30 years, right? That's mindset change happened after that. So you had that mindset. How did you really thought of, like, okay, you had this already a mindset, and to come out of that mindset that I'm not going to live for more than 30 years or more than 20 years, and then you live your life in that space, in that moment, but then you keep changing and you have changed to positive, as if like, now I'm going to live in the moment and everything will be all right, and you are still living it basically. And that is really fascinating and interesting for me, for all the listeners who are listening. We get stuck at one point. I get stuck at one point. I can't do this anymore. I can't do that anymore. But then to come out of that takes stronger willpower, challenge, courage, everything it takes to move from your own mindset of negativity to a positive mindset. What really, that answer me that, like, what was going on in your mindset? How did you change yourself?
Honestly, it's a little strange in some ways, because
Mm.
the thought that I might not live to 30
Mm.
was actually not inherently a negative
Mm.
mindset at all. In many ways, it was very
Okay.
positive, because I had so much depression as a child
Mm.
that not being able to live to past 30 was almost, in some ways, like a melancholy relief,
Mm.
because then I knew that I had a certain
Limited.
amount of years to
Yeah.
just value and appreciate and love the people around me and build myself up in the way that I can,
Mm.
knowing that it didn't matter if I failed or not,
Mm. Mm.
because it was the journey that mattered. It wasn't a destination. It was just living in the moment, absorbing everything that I can, feeling every moment,
Mm.
every touch, everything. And I had quite severe disassociation
Sure.
as a child, so nothing felt real. I felt like I was living in the Matrix.
Mm.
I could touch something and it didn't feel real. It was like living in a VR headset, I guess you could say
Mm.
now.
More like an illusion world, more like an illusion, or what? What do you?
Yeah. I didn't understand what it was. I would cry over and over and over, just wishing that I could be normal or feel like I was part of the world, not just watching some TV program or just floating through, just observing. And I think that's a big part of why I'm positive now in terms of appreciating every little moment, every touch, everything, because I thought that I would spend my entire life living in this disassociative state. I didn't know what it was, why it was. And it was in my early 20s that I started getting therapy for some of the things that had happened to me. And they were the ones that highlighted and explained to me that what I had been experiencing was actually disassociation in response to my trauma, as opposed to just a way that I was going to live life forever. And so going through the therapy, understanding that, putting focus on starting to feel present and almost have meditative moments where I just experience everything, every touch, all of it. I think that's a really big contributor in terms of how I've changed my mindset to something more positive.
Sure.
I'm not sure if that's entirely explaining everything, because again, another long-winded.
No, but
It's
you be humans are very, very.
why I appreciate all the tiny little things. Taste feels 10 times stronger. I sit in the rain and just I feel the water droplets on my skin. I'll sit outside in a thunderstorm or the freezing cold heat. It doesn't matter. The sensation just feels like bliss now, because I'm out of that disassociative state I thought I would always be in. So that alone is a sensation of just immense positivity. It's incredible. Yeah.
No, that's certainly interesting journey you are having, and all the listeners were, maybe I'm a bit intrigued, like, okay, we have been taught in certain way, we have been taught in a certain way, but I am like you, want to live my independent life, but there are many people who wants to live independent life, but they don't understand the meaning of independent means what, or dependence means what. They think sometimes this is norm because we are living in the system around us, and they think this is not norm because it is not identified in the system. But to change your own mindset from one thing to another, and for the positive development of your own, is the key for any humans to achieve something or the other that they can, rather than depending on others to tell them to what to do and what not to do. So in that regard, what I feel, I just want to understand a little bit more about your journey in terms of the positivities that has you have been accepting or adapting to change your own mindset from a different zone to a different zone. As a young child, you said depressions, suicidal thoughts, a thought of only living up to a certain age, then still doing things and adopting things of different kinds, and not saying that, okay, I won't do this because I'm not going to live until 30, so I will just do only one or two things or three things. It's something not like that, right? It's something that you're still having normalized your life. You have taken a normal journey that normally you would say any human would do, but any human would not like accept once they know that they have got OCD, once they know that they have got gonna not live up to 30, then they will adopt a complete different approach on life, hopefully. What is your positive approach on this aspect?
My positive approach is we could all die any day.
Right.
So
Oh, that's a
my
good
positive
one.
approach is to live like that. When I go in the car, I will not drive anywhere if I can't get in the car and accept to myself, today could be the day you die. Have you made peace with everyone you love? Does everyone you love know that you love them? Have you kissed your dog? Or I think about all of that every day. I try and live as if it is going to be my last day. It sounds like a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah, it's not cliche. I think it is called acceptance of the realities that we face around. I don't see any cliche. People may talk about cliche and all, but actually that's the best mindset, that when you know that you don't know what's going to happen today, so live like the last moment and make the most of it. I think that's where we create a lot of things of different kinds and different things, and then we only get happy and satisfied about it, that we have created, because we have lived to the last breath when we created that.
Yeah, I think the thing that has helped me the most, especially after leaving the relationship that I did earlier in the year, I thought it was gonna be the worst year of my life. Like, leaving a relationship like that, such a long-term one, knowing each other for a decade, still love the man, still get on well with him and so forth. But leaving that,
Mm.
I was scared that I would be really destabilized. But I had started working on my arts and building my imagination back up like a muscle. And I found that even after leaving, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what happened or how I felt, because I could close my eyes and I would just start working on my imagination and exploring worlds within my Haleyverse. And that alone was such a positive thing, that it's over time, over the year, I've had some pretty bad stuff happen this year, some worse than has ever happened,
Mhm.
and that's saying something. uh,
Mhm.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because I can close my eyes. I'm in beauty, and that creates positivity, which also waylays the negativity of whatever has happened to me. Or if something negative happens, it's almost like an opportunity,
Yeah,
because negativity, positivity, they all elicit emotion.
yeah, yeah.
And again, similar to what you said, there's almost no such thing as negative and positive.
Mm. Yeah,
I mean, unpleasant, pleasant, I suppose it's the same thing.
it's the
But
same
for
thing.
me, I don't see as an experience as negative. I see it as an opportunity to create it into a positive
Indeed. Mm.
experience. So the moment may have been negative,
Mm.
but what lasts can be positive. So I've
Yeah.
created art out of trauma that has happened to me.
Yes.
Now, the trauma doesn't really feel like trauma, because I've created something tangible and beautiful that I can
Mm.
look at.
Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
I was about to say I almost feel thankful, but I don't. It's not really the best
Mm.
way to go about talking about that. I'm thankful for the ability that I've created within myself to be able to do that and live a life of fearlessness. I could lose everything tomorrow. I
Mm.
could wind up living in the bush
Yeah.
with barely anything, freezing cold, and ultimately it doesn't matter. I can be happy and blissful in my head, which sounds like severe avoidance, but
Mm. Mm.
blending positivity with anything that has original negative connotations, it's canceling out negativity. It's creating beauty out of pain. And it's it's like contrast. Everything in life is
Yeah.
contrast. Beauty is contrast. The black and white pain is what helps accentuate beauty. It's I could go on and
No,
on
I
and on, and
understand.
I
I
won't.
get your point. I get your point. But it's interesting that, so where to from here now, Haley, that you have adopted, accepted a life that you are doing multiple things. And is this the mindset that you have kept on changing, but to the betterment of your own, to the betterment of your own kind of living, and the way having creating that pleasant moments for you? And I just want to just stress one more point, that so when I said pleasant and unpleasant, they both are good, and they both are needed, because unpleasantness makes you change and convert as you said, opportunity, gives you an opportunity to convert into a pleasant. So definitely, I completely accept, and that's a good way of looking at life, good way of looking at your moments. So all the listeners who are listening, as you can see, Haley is stressing the point that opportunities are always there, and pain, during pain, that gives you more opportunity. So don't worry about the pain, I would say. Be positive about the pain. And don't think that's the be all and end all of the world.
Stress positivity, don't stress out.
Stress positivity, that's a good one. Okay. That's nice. That's nice to know. So I will be coming now to the most final parts of our conversation that I wanted to start, end up with, is for all the listeners who are listening. Here is a person who has got challenges throughout her childhood, a mindset of challenges we all have, but it's the mindset how you change and how you look at things and how you see things. So she is experiencing everything. She has experienced almost at a very young age, almost everything that is in the book that can be written.
Yeah,
And
you know a little bit more about that.
yeah,
I don't need to share too much because we
no,
all
no,
go
no.
through pain and we all go
Yeah,
through.
exactly.
We
We
can all
all,
relate.
yeah, we
The
all
methods to get out of it are all the same.
yes. But I was trying to stress that we all have our own book and we all have our own book to write and read. But most importantly is accept that just the way you are, just the way we are. That's the positive message. I take it from here. What Haley is trying to stress to all the listeners. It's not her opinion, suggestion, it's her experiences that who she is today and that what she has experienced, she has shared with us. I wanted to just ask a final message. Haley, what would you like to give to the audiences? You yourself have experienced so many challenges, physical, mental, and everything around you, and relationships and all sorts of that you have yourself created, but then you have also recreated, and you have also created the mindset to manage it. So this is what I see it. So what is your message to the audiences, that what I read about you and what you want to give the message to the audience?
I think the message that I would have is we spend a life running. We're distracting ourselves with music, TV. A lot of the time, we're really running from ourselves, dark thoughts within our head, our own vulnerabilities, and so forth. But that all builds up, it's not being dealt with. And I think that's a big reason why we deal with so much more anxiety these days, is because there's more distractions from ourselves. But our head can be a haven of happiness, and it can be a haven of peace, a place you can go no matter what happens. But it can't be that unless you take the time to sit, have an eye of curiosity, and just allow yourself to experience whatever's happening. Don't grasp onto any particular thoughts, don't dwell on anything. Just allow yourself to just sit and be. It's essentially like a meditative experience, I think, self-discovery, especially when it's really, really intense.
Mm.
I think we all need that time to sit and allow our body just to tell us what it wants to. It's trying to speak to us. That anxiety is it trying to tell us something, but we don't listen. We keep running from it. And so our head just becomes darker and darker. It becomes more jumbled. It becomes more confusing.
Right.
And so it's like spring cleaning, right? You need to sit there. You need to allow yourself to explore the depths of your mind, to clean the little dark corners where all the dust has gathered. This is an analogy that I relate very well to right now because I've just been doing a whole bunch of it.
Right.
It really is like spring cleaning your mind. So when you come home, you have a clean, fresh, happy, positive place to sit and just relax and be. No matter how hard your work day's been, you come home. It's chill.
Mm.
I hope that made sense. I hope it
Of
made
course, of course. I think what you are suggesting that never be so anxious, never go in that anxiety mode.
I think don't it's don't feel afraid of it.
Mm. Become fearless.
Yeah, it's find curiosity. Fear is just something that we don't understand. If we feel fear for something, we don't understand it for the most part. When it comes to within our heads, I believe.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
know we often have dark thoughts and we run from that because it almost makes us feel like we're a bad person. And
Yeah.
OCD people in particular can really struggle with this. Often they say people with OCD are some of the best, most well-intentioned people in the world because they will grasp hold of a thought with
Mm.
fear and always worry that this is who they are inside and they're running from it. But the reality is we all have that. We all have dark thoughts
Something.
that make us who we are.
Mm. We have something in us. Everyone has got something in them that restricts them.
It's part of the contrast, and it's part of the beauty of who we are.
Mm.
Light and dark.
Mm.
It's beautiful. It's why black and white photos are so impactful. It's why
I know. I love black and white
graphite
photos.
art.
You being artist and photographer, and I also love black and white photographs, to be honest. They really give your true self and they really resonate with true ourselves.
It removes distractions.
You remove distractions. I love that. Yeah, I think one day we will definitely do a topic on OCD. I would like to know more about OCD. I really don't know much about OCD, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a really, really
But
misunderstood
mm,
thing. It really is.
mm,
I have no problem with people who say, oh, I'm so OCD when it comes to being
mm,
pedantic or anything like that. I don't really place a whole lot of value on words. I understand what they mean. But for people with OCD, I think it would be really nice for there to be a greater understanding in terms of what it
exactly,
actually does
exactly.
mean. And I think we all have some elements of behaviors that are similar to OCD,
That's
such as
what exactly.
running from dark thoughts and so forth. We all have that. I think we could all learn something and benefit from the way that OCD people
Yeah,
in
like
order
some
to
are
be better.
absolutely like what you said is right. We have some or the other like OCD. So we have got temperaments. Some people have got temperaments of very short-tempered or high-tempered or anger management, that kind of temperament some have. Some have very emotional mindset, very sensitive to many things. That's also is like OCD, if you really look at it from my point of perspective.
It
So
all stems from the same place.
temperament, yeah, exactly. They have a whole behavioral, we have got something seeded in us that we want to we want to uncover and we want to accept it just the way we are and then talk about it rather than not talk about it or becoming a stigma or a taboo for that person, and then there is no communication and then there is a like a sidelining them or those people from your group, from your society, from your community. That's really not what it should be in as a human behavior. So, I totally get. I would definitely love to talk about OCD more because I myself want to know what exactly this OCD is all about. People do talk about it, people do and make excuse about it, or people just say that I've got this, so I can't help it. That's how it is, and all that.
Oof. They're only limiting themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah, but no, but think.
Anything OCD can be used as a way to make you more powerful, stronger. Any negativity, anything like that, we can use it to make ourselves better. We just have to harness it in a way that
Hmm.
works for us. In order to figure out what works for us, we need to be able to sit down with ourselves and learn to understand ourselves and let whatever come out just come out. It's
Absolutely.
terrifying at first, honestly, but it gets better. It gets better. The curiosity starts to build and the fear does start to
Yeah.
dissipate. It's like a sunset. The fear is the sun setting.
Hmm.
The moon is just the beautiful peace. blue, serene beautifulness, and its fingers are just creeping its way through as the sun goes down.
Yeah.
And then the fear is gone, and then there's just beautiful, peaceful curiosity and just electric bliss.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hailey, for these wonderful insights that you have given me of your own. And what a way to, for all the listeners, a person who has got not multiple field interests, but who had multiple challenges in her life. But with those multiple interests, multiple challenges, how beautiful you can still create your own is an example of Hailey. And we really appreciate Hailey's time today to speak to us about her insights, giving her positive elements that she has uncovered herself, but also she is living those positive changes. By making those positive changes, she is living this her positively the journey. So once again,
trying to be better.
yeah, once again, I appreciate Hailey for your valuable time. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we would love to bring you back once again on a different topic.
I'd love to be back.
And yeah, your
The
final.
words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
Yeah, you'll be back. Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, so once again, this is NZ World News Positive. Once again, a beautiful speaker today, Hailey, and we will bring more and more such speakers, such humans, beautiful humans, and real talk with real humans. We will look forward to our next episode, but for now, bye for now, and we'll come back again with a good topic. Thank you, Hailey.
Thank you. Thank you.